Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do more time technique. We have nothing to play as non-copyright level stuff, so I'm just going to do this one. Yeah.
If I were to ask you, what is 5 minus 3 plus 2? What would you say that is? Pause this video and try to figure that out. Alright, well if you wanted to tackle this, you would really just read it from left to right, or you would compute it from left to right. You'd first figure out what 5 minus 3 is, and 5 minus 3 is equal to 2. And so you'd say, okay, that's going to be 2 plus 2, which of course we know is equal to 4. Now, what if I were to involve a little bit of multiplication or division? If I were to go up to you and I were to say, what is 5 plus 3 times 2? Pause this video and try to figure that out. Well, you might be tempted to do it in a similar way. You might be tempted to say, okay, I'll just go from left to right. I'll first compute what 5 plus 3 is, and that, of course, would be equal to 8. And then I would multiply 8 times 2 to get 16. But it turns out that this would not be the right way to approach this, because for very good reasons that we'll study in perhaps future videos, we don't always go left to right, especially when we're dealing with different types of operations. And the standard way that this is approached is that multiplication and division will be done before addition and subtraction. So the way that you would actually compute this is that you would compute the 3 times 2 first. So you would say that this is the same thing as 5 plus 6. 5 plus 6, which is going to be equal to 11, not 16. This is going to be equal to 11. So with that out of the way, let's do a few more examples. Let's say someone were to approach you and say, what is 9 minus 6 divided by 3? Pause this video and see if you can figure that out. Well, as I just said, we would do multiplication or division before we do subtraction. So we'll actually do the 6 divided by 3 first, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. So this simplifies to 9 minus 2, which is equal to 7. And I really want to emphasize it's important that you get this idea that multiplication and division should be done before the addition or subtraction, unless you're given some other types of directions. Because if you just went left to right here, you would have said 9 minus 6 is 3, and then you would have divided that by 3, which would have given you 1, which is clearly a different number than 7. Let's do one more example just for kicks. Let's say that someone were to ask you, what is 2 times 3 minus 1? Pause the video and try to figure that one out. Well, in this one, doing our multiplication first is also the same as going left to right first. So if we do 2 times 3 first, 2 times 3 is 6, so that's 6. And then we would want to calculate 6 minus 1, which is, of course, equal to 5. So big picture, if you just have a bunch of things that are being added, subtracted, multiplying, and divided, and there's no parentheses in it, you would always prioritize the multiplication or the division over the addition or the subtraction. cars. Each car has 4 tires. He has to replace all the tires on the cars. He has 22 tires right now. Estimate the total number of tires he needs to buy. So pause this video and see if you can do that. And the key word here is estimate. You don't have to figure out exactly. You just need to figure it out roughly, the total number of tires he needs to buy. All right. As I mentioned, the key word here is estimate. And estimating is something we'll do throughout our lives. I probably do it once a day at least. And when you're estimating, you want to make all the numbers roughly right, but also think about, hey, how do I need to think about them in order to make the computation a little bit easier or a little bit friendlier? So if I wanted to figure out exactly how many tires he needed to buy, I would say, hey, he has 28 cars. He has 28 cars. Each car has 4 tires. So each car has 4 tires. So if you wanted to know the total number of tires, you multiply 28 times 4. And then it says he has to replace all the tires on the cars. And if he didn't have any, this is the number that he would have to replace. But it says he has 22 tires right now. So if we were trying to figure out exactly, we would say 28 times 4. That's how many he needs to replace. But he already has 22, so you subtract that out, and then this whole number would be the number he needs to buy. Now, this calculation isn't so easy to do, especially if you're doing it on a napkin or in your head, but that's why we're going to estimate. So for estimating, we say, hey, what's a friendlier number than 28? Well, 28's pretty close to 30. So I could say, so if I say, hey, 28 is pretty close to 30, so that's our way of making the 28 a little bit friendlier. 4 is already pretty easy to deal with. And then the 22, well, that could be a lot easier to deal with if instead of it being a 22, if that were, let's say, that's approximately equal to 20. So 22 is approximately, roughly equal, that's what these squiggly equal signs mean, to 20. And so that simplifies the calculation a lot. We could say that this thing up here is roughly equal to, he roughly has 30 cars, and each of those cars need 4 tires. And then he's going to figure out the total number of tires he needs to replace, but then he subtracts out the number that he already has. So instead of subtracting out 22, we're going to subtract out roughly how many he already has, roughly 20. And this computation right here is a lot easier to do in our head. 3 times 4 is 12, so 30 times 4 is 120. So this part right over here is 120. And then you subtract 20 from that. Well, 120 minus 20, well, that is going to be 100. So he roughly needs, if I were to estimate the total number of tires he needs to buy, it would be about 100 tires.
actually making content. But I'm making content.
Well, it's not like it's copyrighted. I'm going